even means to defend itself, because all the time since 1994, after the signing of Budapest Memorandum, the country have not even, replenished any military equipment with its own mind, that because they signed that Budapest Memorandum, and they believed that it's a morally and legally binding document that they can rely on. They can rely on the country partners, all the partners that promise the assurances of territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. And this is just first fundamental point why we're all here, and why we're all reminding the world that it's their legally binding obligations upon their shoulders to provide necessary support to Ukraine. And it's only telling me, until now, if they haven't provided that support until now, that Ukraine been able to evict and repel the Russian occupiers from Ukrainian territories, it's only because the world's still asleep. It's only because they still hiding their heads behind the parapet. It's only because they can't listen to anyone. And that's why we're reminding them on every single rally. World, wake up!
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 World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up!
World, wake up!
World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up! World, wake up!
It's a very simplistic calls for the whole world to see the reality. This is, I'm going the good way if someone just standing aside and thinking that it will just end. It's not gonna go very good or good at all to any other countries that have a values of freedom and democracy. Because what Ukraine is defending now and what it's fighting for, it's purely for those values. Everything started from the point when Ukraine wanted to go and chooses the path of democracy and values, democracy and freedom of speech and freedom for the whole nation, freedom from Russian shackles, freedom from Russian repressions, freedom from Russian authoritarian regime. This is all started from there. And if the world fails now, to stand up against the bully, if the world fails now to stand up and protect those values along with Ukrainians, there will be many other countries in the world that will suffer the same, likewise as Ukraine is suffering now. And when you think about it, when the world will allow a nation of 44 million people to be taken by Russian, what the chances have the other smaller countries? What the chances have the other smaller nations in the world? What the chances they have to survive, and what the chances the world will have for the stability, normality, and for the future democracy? There will be no chance. The only way to get it solved is to provide substantial support to Ukraine. proliferation of military support to Ukraine is fully balanced with how many people are needlessly dying in Ukraine. Because when they mitigate the help to Ukraine with the military equipment, the proliferation of Russian attacks on Ukrainian land just increases. This is the simple balance that can be resolved with the unity of action and purpose, with the unity that will work simply along with Ukraine, and understanding the core of all needs that Ukraine is required to evict and repel the occupiers. There is no other way. So why Ukraine have relinquished all the nuclear power in 1994? Because Ukraine was promoting a peace in the world. Ukraine didn't want that nuclear stock to be blown up, to end the world. Ukraine was always promoting the peace in the world. So why the world now don't take as far back, but think themselves fundamentally that they have to do something, they have to do their own steps to provide that peace for the whole world. And the only peace for the whole world is to stand up against existential threat that Russia poses, not just to the Ukraine, but to the whole core of the values that fully resembles with the rest of free democratic world. World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine!
World, support Ukraine! World, support Ukraine!
Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a minute now to pay the tributes and remember all of those that died defending Ukraine, that died in Ukraine just because they've been Ukrainian, that have been killed by Russians in Ukraine just because they've been speaking Ukrainian language and they were carrying Ukrainian flag. They've been killed in Ukrainian in their own houses, executed, shot in the head, castrated, raped, you name it. You know, all atrocities just to bring the shiver on your spine. Just because Kremlin evil given order to his own brainless, morally bankrupt nation to commit those atrocities. They can't think otherwise but to follow the crazy evil orders. Nevertheless, let's take the minute of silence, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those that died defending Ukraine. The minute of silence starts now. Thank you. Eternal glory and eternal memory for all of those that died in Ukraine. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!
Слава нації!
Смерть ворогам!
Україна!
Понад усе!
Захисникам України тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
Всім, хто загинув, захищаючи Україну тричі!
Слава, слава, слава!
So once again, we're standing here because we feel a need to keep reminding the world that the war in Ukraine is not over. While many medias are forgetting that need, while many medias and TV channels just switch into the seasons and not exploring the real issue that the humanity will face in the future if this existential threat by Russia is not stopped. We fundamentally understand that this is the need, this is the prime need that many countries, free democratic countries in the world have to understand. They have to comprehend reality the way it is. They don't have to put the pink goggles on and sort of pretend that there is no threat to their own, because this is the war in Ukraine. It's not gonna affect them. But in reality, this is not the war that's, this is not the war, this is not the military conflict. This is not the war where the two military battalions are fighting against each other. This is the war of pure crimes against humanity. This is the genocidal war of Ukrainian extermination. This war have full aims just to subjugate Ukrainians to the Russian peace, what they call. But the Russian peace only brings the death and destruction to Ukrainian nation, to Ukrainian land. The Russian peace brings the inflation to the world that the world haven't seen for many, many years. The Russian peace weaponizes the energy that people having to pay more and more. The Russian peace brings the food down because they're blocking the ports where Ukrainian grains have to leave to the rest of the world and feed the other nation, having been a breadbasket of Europe, breadbasket of the world since the 16th centuries. This is the war just purely designed to exterminate Ukrainian nation as whole, but moreover is designed to disintegrate whole Europe and put blame on others why they playing their own victim game via their propaganda channels. If the Russians not stopped in Ukraine, if the Russians not repelled and evicted from Ukrainian territories immediately, this will have a knock-on effect on the other country. If not directly proportionate, but it will be by prices, it will be by the cost of food, it will be by others instabilities and insecurities that the world and people cannot imagine of. Ukrainians 2 years ago, they haven't imagined that many of them will not see their own fathers, they won't see their own kids, mothers, because they couldn't imagine that. It's the same like now, world cannot imagine what's to live in insecurity and instability, having fleeing their own country, and having left everything behind, and most importantly, losing their own members of the families. This is the devastation that cannot be explained. This is just devastation that can be only comprehended by their own. And we call in the world to realize, we call in the world to wake up. Because if they wake up too late, there will be nothing to wake up to. If they wake up too late, there will be cost to it. There will be regrets to it. Because that will take the dynamics that will not be able to change. Stop Russia, save the world.
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 Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the
Stop Russia, save the world.
Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world.
Stop Russia, save the world.
Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world. Stop Russia, save the world.
And if anyone still in doubt, hesitating and being reluctant what side to choose, calling themselves to standing on the side of neutrality, I want to tell you all that there is no such a side as neutrality. You're either supporting the war or you're either against the war. There is only two sides. But before you choose the sides, take back yourself in a history. Don't take it far back. Just take it to the Russian invasion of Georgia. Take it back to Russian invasion of Afghanistan. Take it back to Russian invasion of Moldova. Take it back to Russian invasion of Chechnya. Take it back to Russian invasion of Crimea. They have all been done by the same rhetoric and narratives, protecting their own Russian-speaking people. All the BS that they just profoundly spreading on the media, what they own paid propaganda members that just, they just morally bankrupted themselves in belief of all these narratives and rhetoric that have been spread. And if someone thinks that this war now, it's similar to any other invasions as sort of 19th century's imperialistic conquest aims, the war in Ukraine profoundly designed to extinguish Ukrainians as a nation. Ukrainians having to live in a time when they just been killed just because they've been Ukrainians. And the other people and other world leaders are simply watching with the small support they provided. They simply watching how Ukraine will get around it, how Ukraine will win this war, how Ukraine will end this war, how Ukraine will save its own people. How will Ukraine be able to save its own people fighting against asymmetric dominance of power? How Ukraine can win this war when the other world leaders are still hesitating and not delivering on their promises? Not on only their promises, but also purely ignoring and forgetting the legally binding documents they signed. And by those documents, they own troops supposed to be now in Ukraine protecting the Ukrainian territories. This is the assurances and obligations that have been promised to Ukraine back in 1994. And all we're asking for is to arm Ukraine, to proliferate the military support to Ukraine, to arm Ukraine to the level where Ukraine not just be able to not lose the war, but be able to evict and repel the occupiers back to their own land. Back to their own land, and let them enjoy the Russian peace in their own land. Arm Ukraine now!
Arm Ukraine now! Arm Ukraine now!
Arm Ukraine now!
Arm Ukraine now!